Hi there. Now let's read lesson 335. I choose to see my brother's sinlessness. This is a decision, a choice to see everyone, everything as God created it, instead of looking at it, choosing to see it through the eyes of the ego. Paragraph 1, sentence number 1. Forgiveness is a choice. This is why we have free will. We can choose to see a world of separation, or we can choose to forgive ourselves for having made that mistake and then correct ourselves through the process of forgiveness. We have free will. We can choose to block God's love, or we can choose to accept it. We can choose to block truth, or we can choose to accept it through the process of forgiveness. Sentence number 2. I never see my brother as he is, for that is far beyond perception. When we perceive a tiny little bit of somebody, when we see a body and we think it is separate, we see a man, we see a woman, we see a child, somebody tall, somebody short. Once we have defined them, we no longer know them as God knows them. We only know them as we perceive them. So what we're doing is forgiving ourselves for having perceived people in such a small way. We have condensed what God created eternal and expansive, and we have decided, well, it can only be this tiny little bit. Sentence number 3. What I see in him is merely what I wish to see, because it stands for what I want to be the truth. If you want the truth of you and everything to be that you are one, you will look for what is holy in another. You will look for what is innocent in another. If you want to experience separation, you are better than, you are lesser than, you will perceive somebody separate that you can judge better than or lesser than. You have the power always, always, always to decide what you see in another. Now, when you choose to see with the ego, you're going to feel separate, disconnected. It's going to create some discomfort because you're going to be seen based on past experiences. But when you see somebody as God sees them, you're going to be present in the now moment. You're not going to know them. You're going to be curious about what they've got going on. You're going to be open to new experiences because you will not be projecting from the past, which creates the perception of what you think you're seeing. You're going to be simply observing what appears to be a separate being with a curiosity of, wow, God, how are you showing up through this one? They will be innocent of your perception of the past because they will be unknown to you in that moment. You will allow them to inform you of who the Father is showing up as right there and then, which is one of the beautiful things about forgiving ourselves for seeing through the eyes of the past is we really get to see people in a whole brand new way. It's really amazing to meet people and not know who they are. Sure, you'll know that it is Bob or Susie or Billy. We are in physical form. We are being, we're beginning to awaken, but we're not all awakened yet. I'm not at the level of Jesus. I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm not at the level of Jesus. So I still see my children as my children. So I have a perception of them, but I come to them as much as possible with my mind free of past information so that I can be present to know what are they doing? What are you creating? What is God inspiring you to do in the moment? That way I don't come with judgments, I come with curiosity. And that activates more joy in my heart because I'm excited to discover something new. Sentence number 4. It is to this alone that I respond. We're talking about perceptions and seeing what it is that we want to see. It is to this alone that I respond, however much I seem to be impelled by outside happenings. We're always responding to, am I seeing you forgiven or not? Am I seeing you as innocent or not? That's all that ever happens all the time. I choose to see what I would look upon, and this I see, and only this. So you have to make a choice. We're always choosing. If you are choosing to see somebody based on your past information, you have already decided you want to see through the ego. If you want to see them as brand new and let them inform you of who they are, and you come with curiosity, you're choosing to see what God sees in that one in that moment. But what you perceive of somebody else out there is always based on a choice that you're making internally. Even if it's not something that you think you're consciously doing, it is happening because it's a habit that we got into. So to break the habit, we've got to start making new choices. Sentence number 6. My brother's sinlessness shows me that I would look upon my own. So if I'm looking for his sinlessness, my son's sinlessness, my daughter's sinlessness, it's because I'm owning that in me. If I am looking for what is wrong with them, it's because I'm coming from a place inside of me where I still feel there's stuff wrong with me. This is what projection is all about. We see out there what we believe is in here. So when I made the commitment to see my innocence, to see my holiness, because I was forgiving myself from my ego-based judgments and beginning to accept how God created me, I had to begin to see that in others, because I can't see it in another if I've not already began to feel it in me. Sentence number 7, and I will see it, having chosen to behold my brother in its holy light. Once you make the choice to see the best in everyone, it's a game changer. Your world begins to get reoriented to seeing things from a higher frequency than from the way the ego has been conditioned to see, which the ego always operates from, number 1, separation, number 2, survival. So I got to separate myself from you. Automatically, we forget oneness. And number 2, it's survival. So if I think that you can hurt me, you're guilty of being able to affect me. So I'm going to protect myself, and most likely I will be attacking you. It's just the way the game gets played. And when you defend yourself, then my ego will say, well, I'm defending myself because you attacked me, forgetting that I made the first attack by seeing you separate and thinking you could hurt me. It's a fascinating game. Let's go to paragraph number 2, which is the prayer. What could restore your memory to me except to see my brother's sinlessness? Nothing will restore God's way of seeing except for you to choose to see like God. And God sees every one of us as sinless. God sees every one of us as powerful beings choosing to have this experience, that even while we're in human form and we're hurting each other, we're killing each other, it does not alter the soul that we are that is eternal. It affects our experience in human form, but it does not alter what we are as eternal beings. So when we have that transition called the death experience, when that happens, our soul is totally, completely released from our very narrow perception. And it's like, whoa, wasn't that a fun ride? Now, when we make that assessment from the other side, there is no judgment. There was simply an experience that is totally neutral. It is all done for the joy of playing the game of being human. And we keep coming back as we are increasing the frequency that we're vibrating at. So we are cleaning up the density and moving up into the light. So we keep coming back to reverse the process of descending into the ego story of separation. So we are ascending towards God's perception of oneness. So each lifetime we are moving forward or we're moving down. The collective is moving forward, but individuals can still be moving down because we have that choice through our free will. But the only way to restore our vision to how God sees us is that there's no guilty soul on the planet. There are souls who chose to have an experience of forgetfulness and are playing a role that they have become identified with, but that doesn't make us guilty in God's eyes. That just makes us children playing with power, but not realizing how powerful we are. Let me go to paragraph, still number 2, sentence number 2. His holiness, our brothers, reminds me that he was created one with me and like myself, totally and completely. So that person that we're judging, they're as powerful as we are. They too are pretending that we're one or not. They too are remembering our innocence or not. They too are remember that they are one with God or not. That's all. We either remember or we don't. That's why we're sinless, because we cannot alter what God created. It's just a game in the mind. The valve is closed. We forgot. The valve is open. We remember. How can you be guilty for just shutting off your mind or opening it? Shutting off your mind or opening it. It's you don't need to be guilty for that. That doesn't make you a bad person. And in the eyes of God, it just makes you just a playful little soul that is playing with something really powerful. We're playing with matches and we don't even know what we're doing. My kids play with matches and grab matches. I didn't say you are sinful and terrible because you picked up the matches. I just went, okay, that's not a good thing to play with, and forgave them for picking them up. It's just the way a loving parent treats a child. Our loving parent does not judge us and sees us for the perfect being that we actually are. Paragraph still number 2, sentence number 3. In him and our brothers, I find myself, my soul self, capital S self, And in your Son, I find the memory of you as well. Because when I choose to see somebody as sinless, it's because I've remembered that God sees me as sinless. So in them, I remember who God is. So that's why we got to clean up our stuff in here, begin to project our holiness out there, and that's how we begin to remember God is in here. So it's like from here to there and back to here. It's just a beautiful journey. Let me read paragraph number 2, the prayer, all the way through. What could restore your memory to me except to see my brother's sinlessness? His holiness reminds me that he was created one with me and like myself. In him I find myself, and in your Son I find the memory of you as well. What a beautiful lesson. Thanks a bunch, and I'll see you in the next one.